Austin, Texas is said to be the epicenter of a housing market crash. The media also talks about how locals are mass exiting because of the affordability crisis. However, in this video, I interview Chris Pesek. He is an area realtor, and he doesn't see what everyone's talking about. However, when I dive into it a little bit deep with Chris, though I like him a lot, he's a great agent, he does admit that there are issues in Austin, Texas. He talks about how builders are actually putting forth up to $50,000 of incentive on a, let's just say, $340,000 house just to move the inventory. I hope you enjoy the show. Chris, man, thanks so much for joining me here today. Tell me what's going on in Austin, Texas.
Yeah, Todd, thank you. I appreciate it. Austin's an interesting place right now. Really, we can start with rents. We can start with house prices. We were talking a little bit earlier that depending on what data you look at and whose data, I've seen everything from Austin's down 10% over the last 2 years to Austin's flat over the last 2 years. So the truth is all somewhere in the middle there. But let's just kind of go from what I'm seeing on the ground, and it's really kind of regionally based. One of the things that's driving Austin right now is industry that's coming in. City of Austin's, they've been good for a long time, bringing in different companies and large companies. I mean, everybody knows Tesla's here now, and SpaceX and Boring Company. Elon's basically moving everything that he's got here. Samsung is under construction on. It's the biggest plant I've ever seen in my life, up in Taylor. It's on the northeast side of Austin, and Taylor's popping. So what's driving us is still people moving in, and they're moving in for jobs. And that's basically the long and short of it. And the areas that are growing the fastest and seeing the most increase in value are the ones around those jobs. Bastrop to the southeast, Taylor to the northeast, and then with all the big companies, you've got 1,000 little companies coming in just trying to get that business. And most of those are tech right now. And then you've got the old standbys that have been here forever, Motorola, National Instruments, all of them. And they're still continuing to hire for the most part. We're not seeing big layoffs like there was a lot of concern here last year. So,
are these jobs, I mean, what do they pay? I mean, are these top paying jobs? Or are they low paying jobs?
The ones that are coming in that I'm understanding, for these larger corporations are definitely, above average for the area. You're seeing a lot of people coming in between 90 and 150 a year. There's also the smaller companies that are coming in. Obviously, they're not making that, but the bigger companies, they're making money. They're coming in able, to pay the Austin prices. Everybody talks Austin prices are high, but these people are coming in and able to pay those prices. Now, I did mention, where these houses are, where we're seeing all this explosion. All the companies are on the southeast and northeast side. Housing out there is a little bit cheaper. Median in Austin right now, depending on what you look at, is somewhere around 550, 560. Average is a little bit higher than that for Austin MSA, but out in Bastrop and Taylor, I've done videos. You can find a 3.2, 1,700 square feet for $300,000, $275,000. So even the jobs that are a little bit lower paying, there's housing availability for them. It's just 45 minutes, an hour from downtown Austin, so a little bit further removed.
Well, if you look at $100,000 median income, are you talking about household income, or are you talking about per job? Like they're hiring at $100,000?
I've seen people coming in and have talked to people coming in making north of 100,000.
I wonder what
that's
the percentage
not household
is. I mean, if that's, I can't imagine that would be much, a big percentage.
It can't be. It can't be. And that's anecdotal, obviously. One thing that I did notice, and it's interesting, I was reading another article on this. Austin is, I believe, I want to say it's 64% higher than the mean starting income, basically like out of college, getting your first job. Austin's paying something like 64% higher than the national mean, which is pretty interesting, right? But again, there are a lot of tech jobs here and things like that. So I think that's probably part of it, but income as a whole, it seems like it is doing pretty well here and kind of supporting supporting the people that are living here.
So to buy that $325,000 house to work at Tesla, how far would somebody need to drive?
15 minutes. It's not far at all. Again, Tesla's just on kind of the north side of the airport there, and Bastrop's about 15. The first housing subdivisions are about 15 to 20 minutes to the east. So it's really not a bad commute. It's getting more, it's definitely getting more congested out there on the roads, but it's not a far commute at all.
So you're saying someone can find a decent house for $320,000, $340,000 that's making a 64% higher than the national median income in Austin, Texas.
Yeah. And it's not, and these aren't just, decent. I mean, these are brand new homes, brand new construction. That's what's carrying our housing market right now.
Have prices on those new construction, have they dropped? I mean, when you're looking at prices, I mean, where are we hearing the news? I mean, where's the discrepancy? They say that you're basically center of the housing crash. I mean, these articles are out there. The new builders, I mean, they're offering crazy incentives. They're building like mad, as if they have tons of buyers. I mean, what's the absorption rate? Are they offering big incentives, big price discounts, and that's why people are moving in?
That's the biggest thing. We have seen a downward correction in the pricing, but and now I'm going to back up a little bit, because in summer 2022, when we saw the big spikes in interest rates, builders out here absolutely shut down their job sites. If they were not under construction, those houses sat and there was not a worker on site. They were terrified of what was going to happen. And that they sat like that for 8 to 10 months. And the only time you would see a worker on site is if there was a contract on that house and they needed to bring it to completion. So 8 to 10 months there, we had low number of starts in 2022. 2023 starts were off about 40% from 2020 and 2021, which obviously we had a ton of starts at that time. But the builders just stopped. So they had to ramp back up and bring that production back up. And that's just now kind of hitting towards October, November, December of 2023 last year. And so we're finally seeing that, what I would consider basically a normal amount of new home construction back on the market. And so there was a little bit of we'll just call it a lack of inventory there on their own part. On the builder's own part. So we've seen a little bit of downward pressure on that market, but at the same time, they're really not dropping prices. What we're seeing more is, incentives, permanent buy downs. I've seen builders offering up to $50,000 for permanent buy downs and stuff. So that's where we're seeing the adjustment. Which
is huge, because what they don't want to do is, upset the people that have bought the homes right with the higher pricing, and they don't really want to set a precedence going forward. And that's that's part of the problem, honestly, Chris.
It is. I agree.
Yeah, what I have a problem with is that that's not being reported. And when you're looking at a $340,000 house and you're talking about a $50,000 buy down incentive, that is a huge discount that they're offering to get people to buy their inventory. So that just speaks volumes in what you just said. So when we're looking at, your buyer pool that you have right now, are you seeing, you said that the new home construction is really leading the way?
Well, overall in Austin, and again, just the data that I typically pull, some of these suburbs, again, I'll speak to Bastrop and Taylor specifically, because that's where the large corporations are going in. Over half of their inventory right now is new home construction. But one of the tough things about that is if you pull off things that are not complete yet, and I like to say it as move-in ready. Basically, you can move in 30 days, which is a typical escrow period here. If you remove that inventory, again, it drops the inventory to less than half. And then when you look at what else is on the market, okay, what are you competing against new homes for? Well, there's always the people that are in those same neighborhoods that bought that have to sell for some reason. So that price is reduced. And then you're also looking Bastrop and Taylor, those are old towns and did not have a lot of construction in the 80s, 90s, and 2000s. So the houses that are there need a ton of upgrades, need a ton of work. We're starting to see a little more flipping going on in those communities now too. So again, that's the reason that new home construction is leading that, but they're still lagging just in terms of getting completed doors on the ground.
What about what I'm hearing as far as people exiting Austin? Because we hear that in the news, right? It's a mass exodus going on. And it sounds like what you're saying, that's not true.
The last numbers I saw, I think, were in November of last year, and we were still netting somewhere between 60 and 70 people a day coming into Austin. So, yeah, are we seeing a lot more people leave than we're used to seeing? Absolutely. People moved here during the pandemic, and now they're like, you know what, cost of living has gotten high, I'm getting out. And that's happening, but we're still seeing a net increase daily into Austin. And I think that's the part that's not really reported on. And, statistics, or what's the saying, statistics, damn statistics and lies. I mean, okay, which part are you pulling out and actually looking at?
Yeah, that's so true. I mean, testing, how do they test the data, the sampling of the data, the polls, things like that. We're looking at lagging data, backward looking data, but your boots on the ground. So what is your opinion? I mean, we know that housing has gotten to a point where affordability is not there. I mean, you're telling me once we start getting in the $550,000, $600,000 range, now you're up 20-25% higher than the median, home price, new home construction in the U.S. Mm-hmm. So where do you see, what's the future of Austin? Do you think these jobs are going to all pan out? Do you see a rocky 24 ahead? I mean, what's your take?
Man, there's a lot in that question. The biggest thing, and first of all, understand, I'm boots on the ground. I see anecdotal evidence, but I also have to pay attention to people that are a lot smarter than me. There's a couple of analysts that I really follow here locally and nationally, where a lot of my information is coming from. I'm caught in between two things. Do I think the current rate of increase, or everybody knows the rate of increase during COVID was not sustainable. But the way I look at it is, okay, is it going to maintain or is it going to drop? Because of the lack of inventory. And again, resale is the biggest thing. We talk about it all the time. Nobody's giving up a 3% interest rate unless they absolutely have to. Whatever, married, divorced, died, move a job. So that inventory is going to remain low. So it's imperative for the builders to pick up the slack there. One of the major issues, Mark Sprague is an analyst that I talk to quite often. One of the issues that he keeps pointing out time and time again is we still are going to see increases in construction prices, because even though it looked like our supply chain issues from COVID were fixed, we didn't build more lumber mills. There's, we have the trucking issues that are going on. So he's anticipating somewhere between 15 and 20% build cost increases every year. Okay, so now we run into the issue of, if build costs are going up and they're the ones that are supposed to supply the homes, okay, what happens? If people can't afford them, then there's zero supply of homes. And, when your supply is down, there's going to be some demand. Somebody's going to want to buy a house. So what happens? And that's what I'll kind of ask you too, because I don't know that I really know exactly what to make of it. I just don't see prices in the Austin area dropping. People are saying we're the center of the bubble. I don't see how it can happen when we still have a net increase in people coming. We have, Samsung, I forget how many thousands of people they're supposed to employ. They've already doubled the size of their facility that they're building. So we're driving. That's not to mention healthcare. I mean, Austin is making a real hard push for health and biotechnology and stuff like that. They're trying to get companies to come here. I don't know where the break point is, or if there's even a break point. In order to get people here, the company's going to have to pay them more so that they can afford the houses that the builders are having to produce at a higher price. Maybe that's the solution.
Yeah, well, that may help the people that are incoming, but that doesn't help the people that have lived in Austin for the last 25 years that still rely on affordability to be able to maintain home ownership. And certainly that puts a lot of pressure on the older workers too, because if obviously if they're moving people to a new company, a lot of these hires are, a younger, new hire, and, they're not hiring a 60-year-old necessarily, paying them, a ton of money. So, you really start to see a big divide. But I mean, the big thing that, talking about the supply issue, you always want to be on the wholesale side of the manufacturing side of the food chain, right? Because what happens is if I mill a 2x4x8 and I can charge on a wholesale level, let's just say $12 for that 2x4, right? What you sell it to retail at the Home Depot or Lowe's or whatever, or what you pay to have that installed, that's up to you if you're a builder. I mean, I don't care. I know what I'm charging you for the 2x4. Your margins are going to shrink. My margins as a supplier and a manufacturer are not going to shrink, right? So they may predicate what they want a hard cost to build the hard cost into the construction project. But what's going to happen is the builders are going to have to fight for the profit or the dollar. And I think that, at some point, you can't just pass all of the cost along to the end user, which is the home buyer, because they're tapped out. So I think it's going to be some interesting times. I have a philosophy with landlording. I think that ship has sailed. I think that the money in, the get rich scheme or whatever of, hey, let's buy some rentals with zero money down or leverage the living daylights out of it and hope that we can, get rich doing it, is those days are gone. I think we've glamorized housing too much. It's a basic necessity of life, and we're playing with that, right? So I don't know. I don't know what the answer is either, Chris, but I could tell you that I think nationwide, the more that I talk to people and travel around the country and talk to analysts and talk to people that are way smarter than me when it comes to, how macroeconomics works, I don't see how we can assume these prices are just going to continue to go higher and higher and higher.
I agree. And that's where I'm always caught kind of in the middle. I just don't see how it can continue to happen. But at the, again, like I said, at the same time, what's the answer? Are people going to then go to rents? And that's kind of, the other side of this. The last 2 years, 22 and 23, Austin's had a record number of multifamily doors delivered, and it's by a large margin. And they're still coming online now in 2024. So, okay, there's a lot of apartment availability. If somebody wants that lifestyle, and maybe somebody's driven to that lifestyle just simply because of dollars and cents that, they can't afford to rent a single family home or to buy a single family home. So the issue with that is right now rents are off, I think 5% year over year from December 23 to December 22. But if nobody can afford a house, then they're going to be forced into rents, or they're going to choose rents, either way. But then at that point, rents are going to go up. And so you're going to get this seesaw of, what's the cheapest thing? And that's as old as time, right? What's my cheapest mode of housing that's acceptable? So you're going to see the seesaw going back and forth. And again, it just, I don't know how they go down. I don't know how they go up. I mean, it's a weird market right now. Really is.
I think you just answered it. I think, multifamily housing is going to be where these people are going to have to live. You're going to attract these younger people to take these tech jobs, these higher functioning jobs, and they're going to be stuck in apartments. And your builders, in my opinion, are going to take a bath. I mean, I lived in that space. I know what this looks like. I've seen it before. I've heard this story despite all of the people that, I've been in the construction industry since 1989. I mean, that is a freaking long time, man. And so I've watched this happen. And, who ends up getting burned? The developers get burned. The builders go out of business. They beat the subcontractors down to nothing to where they don't make any money and they can't afford to function. That's sort of like the process of the food chain as it's going down. And I think the ship has sailed. I think that we've enjoyed some high profits. I think that we've enjoyed some great days of, high commissions for realtors in the business and loan officers and title companies and all that stuff. And I think people are really scratching their head and wondering, just what it will look like moving forward. So as we kind of close up here, tell me about your morale in the business, your brokerage. What are the agents saying? Are you seeing people getting jobs? Are you seeing where, mortgage professionals are like, pounding on your door more than usual?
Real estate in general, we lost about 28% of our agents in Austin last year, which is actually, it's bigger than that because we've got a high number of people that just have their licenses to do their own, and that's normal. So 28% of our agents gone, which, okay, we knew that was coming because we saw a huge influx during COVID because, like you just said, right, the money was easy during COVID. Everybody's buying houses and running prices up. You really didn't have to know what you were doing. That's kind of the downside of the industry, low barrier to entry, but that's a different discussion. So overall, the agents I'm talking to, everybody's kind of grumbling the same tune, right? Like, well, last year was fine. I made it through. I'm hoping 2024 is better. If not, I'm going to have to find something else. At the beginning of this year, it started off pretty well. There's buyers coming back out and looking to buy houses. I mean, I just got my first multi-offer deal this year on one of my listings. So we went multiple offers last night, and that's something that's happening again. I don't think it's going to be common.
How many are multiple? 2? 3. Okay.
3. Yeah. It's not the 25 and 30 that I saw during COVID. So just from that perspective, yeah, agents are holding on.
Was there one that, obviously without giving away confidentiality, was there one that kind of stood above the other two? Were they all kind of in the same pocket? What?
2 of them are pretty close, and one of them, just like it was during COVID, one of them's cash and closes it in 2 weeks. Yeah. It stands out on its own. But that's what I'm seeing in real estate. Lenders, a lot of our lenders have bailed. And I'm seeing a large number of lenders go from correspondence to brokerages, trying to find lower rates and lower fees, so that they can, use that as a marketing tool. The biggest thing with them is, again, if new home construction is going to be pulling us through this, like what I'm seeing people say, that's going to hurt lenders even more because they're not competing with new home construction lenders. They're not going to compete on prices or rates or anything else. So I think lenders are going to be harder hit than realtors.
So Chris, give buyers, so if you're a buyer, you're looking to move to Austin, obviously all of Chris's information is in the show notes below. He's part of our broker network. So you can also find him on SachsRealty.com. Click on the map of Texas, drill down to Austin. You'll see all of Chris's information there as well. Chris, if a buyer's looking right now to move to Austin, give them 3 secrets. Give them like 3 magical tips that they can use to have an advantage over, another buyer, but yet not sacrifice their wallet or their contingencies.
One of the big things is, find new construction that you like. And if you can find it in a subdivision that's less than 20% built out, something that's just starting, that's where I would go. And then beat the hell out of them on price. And, personally, I'm not big, and Todd, I don't know, you and I may disagree on this, but I'm not big. I hate the 2-1 and 3-1 buy downs. Permanent buy downs, that's something. But beat the hell out of them on price. And if you can catch it at the beginning of the construction process, go really heavy on what they're going to put into the house for you. Because one of the things that I'm seeing, and this has really gotten big over the last couple of years, is when you have to go back and resell that house, if you didn't deck it out, if it is not the prettiest, shiniest gem on the market, people are going to not even step in the door. They're going to go right past it to the next one. So if you can catch that thing and you have the time to build it from scratch, deck it out, make the builder pay for it. A lot of times you can get them to, give you 50, 60,000 in free upgrades or half price upgrades, something like that. So that's number one. Find a new construction home, beat them up on price, and try to get into a neighborhood that's just at the beginning stages. Number two is I would personally look somewhere up on the corridor of I-35. Now, it depends on what you like in terms of your subdivisions and things like that. But that's where you're going to find your lower prices. And those are the things that, to me, in our market are going to appreciate, because, again, you've got a lot of people that are still coming into Texas. Austin's not going to stop trying to drive more businesses in. And so if you're shopping in that $300,000 to $400,000 price point, you're going to see bigger increases over time or less loss than if you're in a 750 to 800. I mean, that's pretty basic. The other thing is I have a lot of people coming here because Texas is hot in the summer. They want swimming pools. A normal swimming pool in the Austin area, and I mean normal, like a hole in the ground and nothing special, you're going to be looking at $90,000, $100,000. If you get into the hills and you want hot waterfalls and stuff like that, I've seen people spend $250,000 on a swimming pool out here, and it's ridiculous because light half of your money on fire and it's gone, because you're never getting more than 50. I've seen 60 and 70,000 on appraisals now for swimming pools. So you're just burning your money at that point. If you want a swimming pool, either find it in the house when you move in, or there's a couple of companies out here that are doing precast concrete pools that they can put in the ground in about a month. And a normal pool is going to take them 4 to 5 months at least. They can put it in the ground in a month, and they're doing it for about $70,000. It's a place to, it's a way to have a pool, and you're not losing all that dang money that you're putting into it. So I think that's pretty good.
Yeah, that sounds like great tips, man. Certainly. Well, we appreciate your time and look forward to hearing more from you soon. Thanks, Chris.
All right. I appreciate it, Todd. Thanks.
All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed the show as much as I enjoyed interviewing Chris. And you can smash that thumbs up if you like the video, and also drop your comments below. We'd love to hear from you. And if you haven't subscribed to Sachs Realty's YouTube channel, you could take the time to do so now. Hit that alert bell. You'll know every time we upload content just like this. See you next time.
Sachs Realty, Maryland broker number 607720, office number 443-318-4514, equal housing opportunity.